Hey guys, welcome back to the Pathways to Happiness podcast. My name is Nena Lavonne. I'm a life coach that specializes in life transformation and personal development. And today I am so excited because I get to answer your amazing questions. And there are just such a wide variety of types of different questions. It's really interesting just reading them. So I certainly look forward to answering them. So let's go ahead and jump right in. So I was not surprised at all to get several questions about kind of everything that is going on in the world right now with the coronavirus and the lockdown and quarantine. So I will go ahead and answer those questions because they all kind of relate to each other. And the first one is about any tips to help get through this quarantine. I think a lot of people are just kind of over it. It's been going on for a really long time, and I know for some people they're very fortunate because it seems like some areas are beginning to open up. So that's going to give people a little bit more opportunities to get out of the house. But for many people, that is not the case. And in a lot of cases, there is no date given for when that will be the case. So also, when things do technically go back to normal, I think there's going to be a lot of differences. It's not going to be exactly how it was before. So I think we're going to be making adjustments for a long time. So I think for this, everybody is really different, but I will tell you what is helping me the most in hopes that maybe it will help you. The first thing is something I made a video about when this whole thing just started, which is having a routine. I think when you don't have a routine, it starts to really get to you after a while because you don't feel productive, you don't feel motivated, the days all kind of run into one another and not really in a great way. It's not feeling like a vacation. It's just kind of, sucking the life out of a lot of people. And I think that having the routine has been enormously helpful for me. But there's two other things that have really been helpful for me, and they are ambiance and humor. And I had a few days to think about this, so I'm not just pulling this out of my head. These two things have really played a big part in making this much more comfortable for me. So the word ambiance, if you are not familiar with it, it just means a feeling or mood that is associated with a particular place, person, or thing, or in other words, atmosphere. So I have actively tried to make my house as appealing as possible, to make it have the mood that I really desire to feel. And the mood that I usually want to feel is peace and calm. And so I really have to kind of create that atmosphere in my home. And although I really don't enjoy cleaning, I really have tried to make sure that my house is as neat and organized as possible because with all the chaos in the world right now, I'm just needing that sanctuary. So I just try to make sure that it looks as appealing as possible, that it has great lighting all the time, that it smells good. And music is another thing that really affects my mood. I like Celtic music a lot. I love world music. I like music that is designed for meditation, but I like to have some nice soothing music, and I like to have my salt lamp on, but I like to have at least one area of my home that is a place that I can just go to and relax and have that beautiful ambiance, and just it really is something that calms me down, and that's something that has been really important to me. So whereas normally I wouldn't necessarily make my bed the first thing in the morning, now I make sure that my bed is made. I just try to do things that I know is going to help relax me. So that is something that I definitely suggest, and I totally understand that it is a lot more difficult when you have a lot of children or your family is with you and everything is really chaotic. So my suggestion is to just find a small space that is just for you, just a place where you can sit and read, just even if it's your closet, but put pillows in there, just have some beautiful space for yourself that is warm and cozy, and that can just be a place that you can run to when you need to relax. So again, ambiance has been huge for me. I like to set the mood of whatever I'm feeling, and that's something that has been very, very helpful. The other thing, like I said, is humor. Oh my goodness, I can't take hearing the news 24 hours a day and hearing all this doom and gloom all the time. Definitely, I am all about finding things that are funny. And, my sense of humor is a little bit unique. I usually find things that aren't supposed to be funny actually funnier than things that are designed to be funny, although there are, a lot of exceptions to that. So some of the things that I like are, the obvious. I love Saturday Night Live. And not just the new ones. I like to go back and watch the old ones, or at least clips of the old ones. I think probably my favorite series of skits ever are the high school theater skits. There are four of them, and they are so funny. I've seen them probably like 10 times each, and I still laugh every time I see them. So I'm definitely a big Saturday Night Live fan. And the other show that I think is really funny is the comedians in cars getting coffee. I love the show because it's literally just Jerry Seinfeld going with some other comedian to get coffee in some kind of odd vehicle. And the conversations that they have with one another just always are completely brilliant and hysterical. So, those are the two shows that I've been really turning to, but I'm not a huge television fan. So, like I said, usually my sense of humor is things that aren't designed to be funny, but I think these two are very noteworthy exceptions on that. So let's move on to the next question, which I also thought was a fun question. And don't worry, we will be getting to some more serious types of questions as well as more self development type themed questions. But I thought these were fun, so I wanted to answer them first. And this question is, what do you miss most since the lockdown started? I gave this question a lot of thought, and I think I miss so many things. I really just miss being around people. I just never realized how much I truly love being around people and, having the opportunity to do the things that I normally enjoy. I am really missing so many things. But if I had to pinpoint something that had nothing to do with human interaction, I would have to say I really miss going to restaurants. I love food, and going to restaurants is definitely the high point of my week. It's something that I try to do on a fairly regular basis just because I really do genuinely enjoy it just so much. And I was thinking if I had to pick any place in the whole world to eat right now, I would probably pick one of two different places. And oddly enough, they are both Cajun themed, which is not something I eat on a regular basis, but it just kind of popped into my head and now I'm really craving this. So the first place is Cafe Du Monde in New Orleans. I absolutely love New Orleans. I think it is such an incredible place. I love the history. I love all the tours there. I love the Garden District. I love all the haunted history there. I just think it's a fascinating place. And every single time I visit there, I always go to Cafe Du Monde. And if you've never heard of this place, it is this little place that simply has beignets, and then they bring you your choice is water, coffee, or tea. And I think that is really the only thing on the menu. Oh, yeah, or hot chocolate. That is literally the only thing on the menu. And you just look around, the place is always packed, and it's just plates and plates and plates of beignets. You can go literally at any time of day, and it's just always going to have tons of people. It is just such a cool place to go because the energy there is amazing. And of course, the beignets are just delicious. So I think I'm feeling nostalgic and I miss traveling so much. So I think that's probably why I'm choosing that place. And the other place I've never eaten before, but I remember as a child, we would go to Disneyland on vacation every couple years. We were very, very lucky and fortunate, and I was able to have that opportunity. And there was this one restaurant that was kind of part of the Pirates of the Caribbean ride, and it's called the Blue Bayou. And it is, again, this Cajun restaurant. And I always told myself as an adult I was going to go to this restaurant. And it's not that it's this big fancy restaurant or it's, having world renowned food, but the memory of it came back to me recently. And I just started really wanting to go there. So someday I will eventually make it to the Blue Bayou and have some gumbo, which is probably what I would order from there. So I think that is what I am missing the most outside of human interaction and just being able to do the daily things that I'm used to doing. And I'm very curious to what everyone else is missing. So please comment down below first of all, what restaurants that you are missing, and second of all, what you miss overall and what you are so excited to get back to. I think we're all going to have such a deeper appreciation for these things because I feel that we had really gotten into a place where we were taking so much for granted. We have so many blessings in our life. And, if we do these things or have these things on a regular basis, sometimes we can really lose sight of how precious they are. And I think that is the case for so many of us now. And I don't think that's going to ever happen again. I think we realize now how important things are and how lucky we have been to have them included in our lives in the first place. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to the next question, which is, do you have any book recommendations? And someone else asked something very similar. What are your favorite self-development books? So I absolutely love reading, and I could probably list 100 books that I think could be life-changing for just about anyone who read them, but if I had to boil it down to two books, they would be The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer and The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. I feel like every single book we read leaves some kind of mark on our soul somewhere, but these two books genuinely changed my life. In fact, I've read each of them several times, and I feel like I get something out of it every single time that I read them. So, probably you've heard of The Power of Now. And if you haven't, it's just a book that you have to read. It's basically all about mindfulness and truly being present in the moment. And The Untethered Soul is similar, but it has a different feel. And I might say that that is the book that I actually prefer. But it's all about our relationship with our thoughts and emotions and really how to develop inner freedom. And like I said, I cannot recommend that book enough. In fact, I have a page on Amazon with all of my book recommendations. I will try to remember to link that down below because I think that the more we read, of course, the more our mind expands, but there's just always something in every book. There is always a takeaway. In fact, I read two books in a row that I didn't really care for, and I can't switch them out right now because the libraries are still closed, and usually I get most of my books from the library. So I was thinking about it, even though I didn't really enjoy both of those books, and I'm not going to give their names because I don't want to dissuade anyone from actually reading these books. But I did actually get something out of them, and I think that is always the case with pretty much everything we read, or, even when we watch televisions or movies, we have, different inspirations and different thoughts are kind of seeping into our subconscious. So we do get something from everything we consume. And that's a reason why we have to be careful about what we consume. We have to be intentional about it because whether we like it or not, it leaves an imprint. It leaves an imprint on our subconscious. So I'm very, very careful about what I do choose to consume. And I think that is, a really good guideline to follow in our lives. I do generally prefer to read things that are nonfiction, but I know many people who have had their lives significantly impacted by things that were works of fiction, whether they be novels or movies. So, of course, you have to go with what you personally find appealing. But if you have not read The Power of Now or The Untethered Soul, I just can't recommend them enough. They are just transformative books for sure. And I can give you a list of probably 100 books, but you can check those out on the Amazon page if you are interested in doing so. All right, let's go on to the next question because I think this is one of the most interesting questions that I have ever gotten and something that I've never really thought about before. And the question is, do you believe in spirit animals? And if so, what is your spirit animal? So I have to admit, I really do not know much about this topic. I had to Google it and do a little research. So for those of you who also don't know that much about spirit animals, according to dictionary.com, it says in certain spiritual traditions or cultures, spirit animals refer to a spirit which helps guide or protect a person on a journey and whose characteristics that person shares or embodies. It is also a metaphor, often humorous, for someone or something a person relates to or admires. So let me start by answering the first part of the question, which is, do you believe in spirit animals? I'm not going to give this a black and white answer. I'm going to give you kind of my theory on life, which is I'm really not a person that sees things in black and white. I'm a very open person. However, I do really respect the scientific method. I do enjoy things having empirical evidence, but a lot of times that is just not possible. And when that is not possible, I'm usually very open. I'm open to hearing different points of view. I mean, I may have an opinion that is stronger towards a yes or a no, but I give a lot of credibility to, at least hearing things out and hearing why people believe the things they do. I also think that so many of the things that we accept as being true or being things that we consider are just as odd as, things that are considered more outlandish. I think just with time and with social norms, we start to accept different ideas. But if you really think about it, some ideas, if we really put them under the microscope, are crazy that we accept. And so if we think about or, contemplate other ideas, maybe they do seem crazy, but maybe they aren't crazy. And with time, we become more accepting of them. So, anyway, I try to have a very open mind. And I also think that what we believe to be reality is reality, at least for our own self. That is a proven fact. How we perceive situations does become our reality. So, in one sense, it becomes real for us whether or not it is actually physically true. So, since I certainly cannot know all the inner workings of the universe, I will simply say that I will be open to the idea and that if nothing else, it is interesting and fun. And this question reminded me of something that happened about 2 years ago. I was living in a different state, in a different house, and all of a sudden, on a daily basis, this hawk would come. At least I thought it was some kind of hawk. It was definitely a large bird of some kind, and it was just so strange that I had never seen it before, but yet it started coming daily to my house and sitting on the fence and literally looking in directly at me from the window every single day. I started taking pictures of it because I actually really wanted to know what it was, and I think I figured out it was some kind of a falcon. And because it just kept visiting me so often, I felt that it was symbolic in some way. I started to look up what falcons meant, if they had any symbolic meaning, if this was perhaps some kind of message that I was supposed to be getting. So when I researched it, it said that the hawk symbolized the ability to use intuition and higher vision in order to complete tasks or make important decisions. That hawks represented the messengers of the spirit world, so seeing them definitely meant that the universe wanted me to learn powerful lessons or expand my knowledge and wisdom. So, I guess in a sense, even though I hadn't looked up the term spirit animal, I did at one time wonder the symbolic meaning of seeing animals repeatedly over and over. I really don't know, however, what I would choose to be my own spirit animal. I like so many different animals. I love all woodland creatures. I really like felines. I like owls a lot. So I'm not really sure what I would actually pick. I did, just for fun, go and take an online quiz on what my spirit animal would be, and it came up with the butterfly. It said that that is associated with personal transformation and change, and being sensitive to the personal cycles of expansion and growth, as well as the beauty of life's continuous unfolding. So I really like the message that it gave me, so I think that I will probably go with a butterfly. It also said that it is about the ability to go through important changes with grace and lightness. And I really like that message, so I will go ahead and say that my spirit animal is the butterfly. And I think sometimes in life it is nice to have a balance between, what we know to be 100% factual and the things that are just a mystery or just fill us with wonder or fun. I recently did a video about finding and cultivating magic in your life, and I think it is so important that we have that element. Not everything that we think about needs to be backed by the scientific method. I think it is important to have some kind of balance in our life so that our life is enjoyable and has that element of fantasy. We don't want, that to be the predominant element in our life, but it is important that we have that kind of whimsical element in our life and that we consider different possibilities that might be kind of offbeat for other people. It just makes life kind of fun and sometimes actually really eye-opening. Some things that I have considered in recent years are things that I definitely would never have considered, but I've seen evidence for. So, just keep your eyes and heart open. You never know what can really expand your life. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the next question, which is a great question that I think that many people can relate to, and that is just asking what basic advice I could give for worry. What can I do with all this excessive worry? And I think, again, due to the current situation, a lot of people are just pretty much worried all the time. There are brand new things to worry about. And, we're just in this very surreal time. So I think it's a really relevant question and a timely question. So, one thing that can be helpful is to go along with something that's called a worry decision tree. And I'm going to go ahead and walk you through this process, but you can also find this on a website called psychologytools.com if you want to actually print this out as a reminder for yourself. But let's go ahead and basically walk through it now. So, what we want to ask ourselves when we are filled with a particular worry is, what am I worrying about? So, sometimes we are just filled with panic. We don't even know exactly what it is that we are stressing out about. So, we need to, first of all, figure out what the specific anxiety is. What is the specific worry? Then from there, we have one important question to ask, and that is this a problem I can do something about? Now, if the answer is no, we are going to let the worry go and change the focus of our attention. Now, I know we do not have a magic wand, and that sounds like it's really easy to say, but definitely not so easy to do, but that is our eventual goal, to get to the point where we are able to, once we understand that there's nothing we can do about it, to kind of distract ourselves or move on. Now, if it is something that we say, yes, I could do something about, the first step in this process is to work out what we could do and to list all our possible options. So, anything that we feel would help make the situation a little bit better or to solve the problem, we're going to brainstorm and list out. And then we're going to think, is there anything of these things that I can do right now? So if the answer is no, none of these things would help out right now, the next step is to plan what we could do in the future and when exactly we will do it. And then again, we have to, at this point, let the worry go and change the focus of our attention, because there's nothing that we can do in this current moment. Now, if the answer is yes, there is something that we can do right now, we need to go ahead and do it now, because if there is any potential of alleviating the situation, we need to kind of jump on it right now and to tackle it. And again, once we have done that, you guessed it, the next step is to let the worry go and change our focus of attention. So this is just something you can kind of walk yourself through whenever you feel that worry come up. But of course, let's face it, it's not as easy as just telling yourself, oh, let's not worry about it anymore. Worry is something that causes an incredible amount of suffering, and it's something that we have to train ourselves to deal with a little bit better. So, a few of the strategies that I often give in my podcasts and in my YouTube videos is to use a process called cognitive behavioral therapy. And I did make a YouTube video about it. I will link it down below if you're watching this on YouTube. Otherwise, if you're listening to this through the podcast, you can look it up on the Nena Lavonne YouTube channel. It is a wonderful form of therapy that you can perform as self-therapy that really helps you to check your automatic thoughts and your irrational beliefs, because so many of the things that we worry about aren't things that will ever come into fruition. They are just stories that we create in our mind with not too much information, and we really just kind of catastrophize them and we make them into these terrifying scenarios. So this process really allows us to see if something is legitimate. Is this a legitimate cause of worry? Or is this something that is coming because of my, again, automatic thoughts or irrational belief? Another thing that we can do is to make sure we are staying busy. If we are allowing ourselves lots and lots of time to worry, think of how much we are going to really just scare ourselves to death if we put a stop to it by giving ourselves other things to think about that really require a lot of cognitive effort. That is going to not really give ourselves the time and space to be worrying. So the more productive we could be, the more distracted we could be. Anything that is really using a lot of active engagement is going to really stop that worry, at least temporarily. And sometimes that's all we need. Sometimes we just need that distraction. We need that little break in the worry to bring us back to reality. So that's something that I personally find really, really helpful. Another thing that is important is to get the worries out by either journaling about them or talking to someone else about them, or even setting aside a designated worry time. I know I talk about this a lot, and oftentimes when I bring it up, people think it sounds really silly, but it's actually extremely effective. So, what I mean by setting aside a time, it's just saying that when these emotions come up and we start to feel that sense of worry and anxiety, we tell ourselves, well, we are going to acknowledge these feelings, but we are not going to do so until 2 o'clock, we're going to worry from 2 o'clock until 2:25 p.m. or whatever it is. But you give yourself this very defined, confined space that you are going to let yourself indulge in as much worry as you want. And what you find is that sometimes when it gets to that time, you don't even want to worry. And other times it's just helpful because you all of a sudden feel that you have a sense of control over it. Because so many times, again, worry is that feeling that we don't have control over our lives. We don't have control over situations. So offering ourselves such a concrete method of having control over these feelings can often be such a relief. So it's something that I definitely recommend trying if you have never done before. And the last trick I will kind of offer in this podcast is to interrupt the worry cycle. So, when we start ruminating or just worrying excessively, we just have to stop. We have to switch it up. We need to either go outside or call a friend or watch a movie, but we really need to distract ourselves away from the worry cycle. We've got to break this cycle so it doesn't get worse and worse. Because oftentimes, when we don't check in with it, it can go on forever. We can end up worrying literally for hours on end. And oftentimes, just having those same thoughts over and over and over. And sometimes, when I am ruminating like that, I literally have to tell myself, hey, we've thought about this like 4 times in a row. I think we can stop thinking about this. Sometimes we just have to actually police our thoughts, and that comes down to being aware of our thoughts, having that self awareness to know I am ruminating, I am excessively worrying. And if that's the case, again, go to that worry decision tree. I think that is very helpful to a lot of people, and it's something that many of my clients just kind of have printed out and they keep in their purse or their wallet or wherever, so they can kind of walk themselves through the process when they find that they are just getting into that cycle of worry. So I hope that is something that you find effective for you as well. And the time is flying so fast, but I definitely want to get to this next question because, again, I think it's really, really timely and relevant. And that is, how do I stop feeling so bored during this quarantine? I love this question because I actually think that it's great to be bored sometimes. And I think that our lives have been moving so quickly and have been such a blur for so many people for so long that actually experiencing boredom in this temporary time is something that's actually a blessing, because I think that boredom brings clarity. It brings also creativity. I always say that I think the reason why music is so bad right now, and you can argue with me in the comments if you don't think that music is so bad right now, but I definitely feel that it has had a steady decline from kind of decade to decade lately. But I think it's because we are too busy. We always have so many distractions, and so many of the great works of art came from people being able to kind of get lost in their own mind, or to look out the window and stare aimlessly and let, the natural trains of thoughts really come to them. And I think we block it off so often by always checking our phone and having the news on while we have the radio on, while we are texting a friend, and we're always multitasking. So if we have these moments where it really is quiet, so much to the point where we actually feel bored, I think that sometimes that can really offer some insight into things we've been maybe feeling and pushing away. And again, like I said, a lot of ideas, so many great ideas come from having the time to actually think. In the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, I think he suggested, and it's been a long time since I've read this, so please correct me if I'm wrong, setting aside either 30 or minutes or 1 hour a day just to think of stuff and how far we could progress as a person and professionally if we gave ourselves time to actually contemplate new ideas, fresh ideas. We never do that anymore. We just go, 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 go. And if we offer ourselves these times of reflection, I think there can be a lot of benefit to that. So that is my first part of the answer. The second part of my answer is just simply to be intentional with our time. I think when we're intentional with our time, we don't really feel bored. It's when we are just aimlessly doing things kind of just halfway that we tend to feel bored. And so much of that has to do with social media or just things that we do on our phone that really don't add a lot of value to our life. I think when we are doing things that have value and have meaning to us, we really don't get bored because everything that we are doing is significant for us. It is either furthering our self development or bringing us towards a goal, or we are doing intentionally for relaxation or for enjoyment, but there is a reason behind it. So I think thinking about the times that we are not being intentional with how we are spending our time is going to help with that feeling of being bored. And if we feel that we just have a lot of time to fill, I think we can just sit down and ask ourselves, what do I want to be spending my time on? What are the things that interest me? What are the things that inspire me that would be worth my time? What are things that could easily get me kind of into that flow state? So once you know that, you know where to direct your time. Is it going to be, making this beautiful piece of art or learning an instrument or engaging in some of my social relationships that I've been maybe neglecting? But think about the things that really hold value for you. And these are the things that you will really never get bored doing. But I think in this day and age, so many of the things that we do are boring because they add zero value to our life and we're not using our full brain when we do them. If we are just looking at, Instagram and what things that other people are posting, how much excitement is that actually going to bring us? If you just think about it logically, of course that's not going to be fulfilling. Of course that's going to be boring after a minute and a half of doing it. So it all comes down to intention. So that is where I'm going to end it today for our audience questions. And first of all, I want to thank you so much for submitting these questions. I found them so interesting and enjoyable to answer. And also, I received so many questions that I felt I couldn't really answer in a podcast that really shared time with other questions. So I will go ahead and make them into either full podcasts or full videos on the Nena Lavonne YouTube channel. So I want to thank you all so very much for all your support. Again, both here and on the YouTube channel. I enjoy interacting with you so very much, and I feel that this is such an incredible and insightful audience. So thank you so much for being a part of it and for inspiring me. And I also thank you so much for spending time with me today. I had a lot of fun. I can't wait for the next one. So definitely keep those questions coming, and I greatly look forward to talking to you next time. Have an absolutely amazing day, guys.